What's up, crew? It's Chris with CloverTac, and welcome back to the channel. Now, we're going to be taking a look today at the much anticipated Witness 2311. This will be the first, at least full-length video on the channel, hopefully one of quite a few to come. Before we break into this thing, check it out, put rounds down range though, I want to talk a little bit about the range setup here first. If you're not into that, if you don't care, scrub forward, scrub past the little logo stinger, and you can skip all the bloviation. Now that all the kids are gone, real quick, I want to talk about our 75-yard range area here. We did some improvements, as you can probably tell, to this area. Shout out and thanks to Infinite Defense, infinitytargets.com. There's a link down below. The Infinity Target's pretty darn cool. Got to get some signage up for those guys. Probably going to replace this bench with a picnic table eventually. Now, why did I do this? Well, number one, I wanted a space that just looked better at the 75-yard area. 75 yards back from the berm down there is the max we have right here. So that gives us the ability to put targets anywhere from 0 to 75 yards, which is really cool. So it's more versatile, right? With the area being 8x16 here, it's also a little more versatile. The one drawback is probably traffic noise because we're that far back on the property, about 50 yards back that way. In fact, a car just came through. About 50 yards back that way, there's a highway. So even with noise canceling, sometimes we're going to pick up on some of the louder vehicles traveling down that highway. But one of the cool things is with the dog ears on the picket fences, I'm able to hang a crossbar here and put a camera mount. So potentially get all kinds of cool camera angles. So not just versatility with the benches and the other things in the area I've got to use to test the firearms themselves, but also the different creative things maybe that we can do as well. So with that said, let's jump into the actual Witness 2311 video, meet up with the kiddos once again. Here we go. So real quick, before we get to any live fire, there's a few things that we do need to cover on this little handgun. Obviously, 1911, 2011, 2311 design, double stack magazine, pretty nice, flared magwell, optics ready. Just so happens I am running a Gideon. I believe they call this the Judge, which is a little green dot. I think it happens to look really, really good on there. Keep in mind with the Witness 2311 and being optics ready, you will lose when you remove that rear plate. You will lose that rear sight as well. You've got your accessory rail, of course, all polymer lower, which means unlike I should say most 1911s, you're not going to be able to change the grips. However, if you find traditional 1911 style grips comfortable, you're going to be fine with the lower on this thing for sure. This particular model of the Witness 2311 is chambered in 9mm. Now, these things are starting to be seen out in the wild, and it's hard to believe they announced this thing almost a year ago now. Shout out, 2 thumbs up to our wonderful government, the goofy bureaucracies of the Department of State and the ATF, which has caused setbacks and delayed this thing for a very, very long time. As a matter of fact, where this is the 9mm, this should be available right now in 10mm as well as 45 ACP. Now, those models are coming soon, but again, thanks to our wonderful government and those regulatory agencies, there have been some issues in getting the other variations into the country. This is the 4 1/4-inch barrel version. Now, there will eventually be, I believe, a 5-inch and a 6-inch version as well. The 6-inch, though, as far as I'm aware, only going to be able, or available, I should say, in the 10mm. All right, so now it is time to put rounds on paper, right? It's so 25 yards down range, got us a target marked and set up. Got 2 different types of ammunition we're going to run through this thing. The first being some white box 115 grain Winchester. The second being some Igman 124 grain ammunition from our friends at Global Ordnance. Well, let's go 5 rounds of the 115 grain Winchester white box on the bullseye to the left. Here we go. Pretty good little string. Let's move on to that Igman. Got 124 grain Igman. Target bullseye on the right. Here we go. Very similar group. Might be a little edge there, looks like, to that Igman 124 grain. Going to do a little reliability testing here. We've got some Igman 124 grain, some Sterling 115 in steel, 115 Sterling in brass, some Winchester 115, and finally the fifth, some Federal 115 grain. So I swapped out our paper out downrange for a 6-inch steel gong. Got a mix of that ammunition in one magazine. We're going to be starting with the brass Sterling 115 grain, going to a 115 grain Winchester, 115 grain steel case Sterling, 115 grain Federal, and ending off with that 124 grain Igman, and 2 rounds of each. So be running through that twice. See what this thing will do as far as function with various types of ammunition. Here we go. And pretty doggone flawless, I would say, considering that was 5 different types of ammunition. Everything cycled, action locked back. Can't ask for much more than that. So with the Witness 2311 here, it feels good, seems to run fine. Don't see any initial issues anyway. The one drawback, probably losing that rear sight when you put the optic on. So you may want to pay attention to that. Grab you an optic that does have the rear sight notch kind of made into it. Another thing that I didn't mention earlier, very important, is the footprint on this thing is RMS-C. So that's going to be important when you're picking up the optic that you want to use. Now, if the 2011, the double stack's not your thing, or Girsan and EAA, they've got a wide variety of 1911s, including the carry versions as well as the hunter versions. I've got videos on both of those. Going to put them up on the screen right now. As for this one, though, we're done. So thanks for hanging out. Thanks for watching. And until next time, don't forget to chain fire freedom.